Hello friends, may Jesus be with all of us today and always. Welcome to the program Spiritist Teachings, where we are going to show you classes of the course Basic Notions of Spiritism. The course Basic Notions of Spiritism is the first course of the introductory cycle of studies of the Spiritist Center. So today you're going to watch the class Kardec and Spiritism. And if you want to reproduce this class in your Spiritist Center, pay attention to the material that we use in each class. So first, we use this book called Get to Know Spiritism. And this book contains all the 14 classes, and it's used in every single class by all students. We also have a book that we use in the moment of self-enlightenment called Agenda of Self-Enlightenment. This book is not just used during the classes, but also at home, every day at home, as a method of self-enlightenment. We also use a book from Emmanuel called 2000 Years Ago. This is the book of the support of our studies, used in the moment of self-enlightenment as well. In every class, you're also going to need an attendance sheet that we're going to take attendance every class at the beginning of each class. For every class, you're going to find in our website that is here on the screen, and you can go online and you'll find a lot of materials. You're going to find all the slides as well as the plan of class, of each class, explaining each moment, what we're going to be using, suggestions of techniques, of group studies, and so on. For this class, you're also going to need little papers with numbers, and you give to the students as they come in, and they will tell the students the group of studies that they will be in, as well as instructions for each of the groups, and you prepare all of these before. And in the class plan, everything is very well explained to you. You are going to prepare these little posters here to put on the wall as well for the students. And during one of the activities, the students will prepare their own poster. And so you need to have some of these posters for the students with markers, colored pencils, crayons, and whatever they want to prepare their posters, even images, pictures. Today's course will have as instructor Julio Kosmowski. Enjoy your class.
Hi, Julio.
Hello, how are you?
How are you? Very good to see
Good
you.
to see you. Hello, how are
Good to see you again.
Hi, hi, hello.
Hi, Jordan. That's
Hello.
Good to see you. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Julio.
Hey, Maria.
Good.
So good to see you again. And today we're gonna have the class number 3, which is
Allan Kardec.
right. Great, yes. So today we're gonna talk about Allan Kardec. And before we start the classes, as we always do, in everything that is related to Spiritism, what are you gonna do?
Pray.
I'm gonna pray, isn't it? So let's find a comfortable position in our chairs. Let's close our eyes. Be now in sync with the higher entities, with Jesus Christ, with God, the high spirits that are here coordinating this class. And say how thankful we are to our Lord, our Creator, for being here amongst beings of this world and the spiritual world, to receive wisdom from Jesus Christ and the high spirits. God, please help us to perceive your energy of peace and harmony, so we can absorb these teachings and take advantage for ourselves and for everyone that surrounds us. God bless us all. So be it. Right, so let's start with taking attendance. Let's see who's here. Howie?
Yeah.
Nelly?
Yeah.
Cida?
Hi.
Magda?
Hi.
Alice?
Hi.
Anna?
Here.
And Maria.
Present.
Well, the first thing that we'll do in the first moments of this class is self-enlightenment. So did you all had the opportunity to think about self-enlightenment during this week in the agenda? Great. So please, you're going to have couples. You can have couples, you two, and maybe you three. Discuss about the week, please.
Too much.
One more reason to be here.
Yeah.
Try to cover everything that you can.
All right, now that we finished this first moment about the conversation, fraternal conversation, let's go back. Yes. And let's talk a little bit about the book. We are studying this book 2,000 years ago, isn't it? When we left, we were in the first chapter of the second part of the book. Now in the second one. Everyone read the book? Yes. Great, great. So in this part, he talks about Publius Lentulus. And when he describes Publius Lentulus, we see that he's not a bad guy, or is he? No. Is Publius Lentulus a bad guy? No. He's responsible with his work. He does his work well. He is responsible with his family, his wife, his family.
Father.
Yeah, his father is a good father. So, but he has a fault, a moral fault, and his moral fault is pride. He was a senator. He couldn't change that pride of being a Roman senator, and this made him a person that was very, very prideful. So now we're going to go to the third moment. After we talked about Publius, we talked a little bit about his problems and the problem of the book. We come back and we're going to see inside of ourselves. And we are now in the fifth week of the agenda. So I would like you, each one of you, to write about your week.
Fazer uma pergunta. Faz a primeira pergunta. Aí depois você.
31st of March is a very important date in the history of Spiritism. It was on this day that the Fox sisters first communicated with the spirit of a man who had been murdered 5 years prior to that day in their house, in a very small village in the state of New York called Hydesville. The Fox family, which was Methodist, had rented the wooden house a year before. There lived Mr. Fox, his wife Margaret, his 2 daughters, Margaret and Catherine. They had other children, but they did not live with the family. Earlier residents to the house before the Fox family had noticed the strange noises as well. The noises began softly and rarely, but grew in intensity and frequency. There were sounds of scratching on the doors and walls, and also the sound of wooden furniture being dragged around. Many times these vibrations were so strong, their beds shook and even lifted off the floor. Kate and Margaret, terrified, could not sleep and would go to their parents' room. Kate had the idea to try to communicate with the entity that was causing these noises. She would say, "Mr. Splitfoot, do as I do," and clap several times. The entity would knock back as many times as she clapped. She continued communicating to it, asking it to count to 4, and she would hear 4 knocks back. Mrs. Fox then began asking questions. She asked her daughters' ages and heard the correct amount of knocks back. After establishing a sort of alphabet with the entity, she discovered that it was a spirit of a merchant named Charles Rosman, who was stabbed to death 5 years before by the man who resided in the Fox family's house at that time. They dug around the area and found a few bones and human hair. 56 years later, they found the merchant's entire skeleton under one of the walls, proving the body had been hidden by the murderer in fear of being discovered and caught. In 1855, Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail, a French arithmetic teacher, astronomist, and researcher of magnetism, was invited to investigate a peculiar event occurring in Paris, the turning tables. Rivail was 51 years old and had already heard of the turning tables, but he did not understand it. He believed it was a hoax, caused by the people at the tables, not a spirit. Rivail then took part in a few of the sessions, and he noticed that the movement of the objects could not be caused by the people, and the answers given extended the possible knowledge of the people present. Since the furniture could not move by itself, there had to be some invisible force causing it to move, and replying to the questions asked. It claimed to be a spirit named Truth, and that Rivail had a mission to write for a new doctrine, and after questioning the spirit extensively, he chose to accept this mission. Through the spirits, Rivail found out that in a past incarnation he was a priest named Allan Kardec. He chose to adopt this name for the new doctrine, which would be called the Spiritist doctrine, or Spiritism. In the beginning, to receive information from the spirits, Kardec used a new method where mediums would hold a wooden board with a pen and through involuntary movement would write what the spirits wished to communicate. Mediums later learned to write without a tool, using just their hands and a pen. This method became known as psychography. All the questions by Kardec and answers by the spirits were revised and analyzed several times before being published. Allan Kardec prepared the publication of the 5 basic works of the Spiritist doctrine, starting with the publishing of the Spirit's book in 1857.
All right, you just have the, watched the movie about the Fox family, and this movement that started from that episode, the episode Hydesville, the new or the modern spiritualism here in America. There was a few years before Allan Kardec got contact with the spirits in Europe. We have here an interesting website that explains a little bit about it too. This is the website from Hydesville Memorial Park, and in this website you see the house is right now that house is not the original house, but there was one that was built because the other one was the original one was caught on fire, but they still have the foundations there. This website explains us that they came to the house in 1847, the Fox family. It moved to this community of Hydesville in New York. There was a very, very small community, a tiny village. And during the last 2 weeks of March 1848, strange knockings were heard from the floors, the walls, the furniture at night. During the night of March 31st, 1848, Katie suddenly got the idea of talking to the knocks. She called out, "Here, Miss Splitfoot," a common nickname for the devil, "do as I do." And she started to knock and make questions, say, "If you are a man, knock once, or if you are the devil, knock twice." And she made lots of questions, and all the questions were answered by these knocks. And they said there's something there, because knocks, noise are not intelligent to do anything. So she and her sisters started to talk to the spirits. So now we can see the inside of that little house. So as you can see, this is just a structure, because the house, the walls, they were burned down. And we see that inside of this structure hangs a picture of the Fox sisters, as well as the exposed foundation of the original code. Okay, Now that everybody's seated, let's start with the activity. It's quite simple. We have a puzzle inside each envelope, and inside of this envelope, some instructions. Okay? We have the puzzles. Of course, if you like puzzles, it will be very nice for you guys. Just after you do the puzzles, you're going to read this, and you're going to follow the instructions. Good? So while you finish the puzzle, please pay attention here. We have in the instructions, we have some items you have to follow. It will be pretty simple. You read what is said here, and when you come here, you're gonna answer based on these questions here. All right? Okay, time's up. Everything. I see that everything was done, and now I'd like to ask to one person of each group to come here to give the impressions that you guys had in each group to everyone else. First group, who would like to come? Thank you.
So our group studied this question. What is the third revelation promised by Jesus
All
to
right.
man?
Now, group 2, please.
Well, so our group number 2, got this question. What are the basic works of Spiritism? By Allan Kardec. We have the Spirit's book, we have the Gospel according to Spiritism, Miriam's book, the Genesis, and Heaven and Hell.
Now, group number 3, who would like to come? Nelly. Here, Nelly, please.
The group number 3 sit on the relevant event in the summary of Allan Kardec lives.
Great job, everyone. Now, we're going to come back to our original formation, the semicircle. Can we, please? Nice group activity, isn't it? So to complement that, let's see some slides that make things even more interesting. Spiritism, third revelation. Spiritism is the new science that comes to reveal, by means of irrefutable proof, the existence and nature of the spiritual world and its relationship with the corporeal world. Allan Kardec, The Gospel According to Spiritism. Interesting this concept here, because as we see, Allan Kardec explained about Spiritism, says that Spiritism is a science. So science is to be explained. Science is to be studied. And science, as we know, never stops to evolve, isn't it? Spiritism is the key that helps explain everything in an easy way. Allan Kardec, The Gospel According to Spiritism. Spiritism has a principle, the relationship between the material world and the spirits are beings of invisible world. So in these two explanations here, we can understand that till that day, till Spiritism came, we had lots of questions about how the spiritual world were. Would we go to the spiritual world? Will we rest there forever? Can we communicate with the spiritual world? Why are we here? So are we gonna come back? Are we not gonna come back? And many, many other questions. And Allan Kardec says that we can understand, and that can be explained very easily with a study of Spiritism, study of these spirits, with the teachings that the spirits brought to us. The three aspects of the Spiritist teachings. So now we know the three aspects that are science, religion, and philosophy. And remember that we talked about science first. So we have Spiritism explaining faith, explaining the relationship in between this word and the other words. But we have other two too. We have the religion one that explains the link that we have with God, the link that we have, that so many people say the big light, the high spirit, or Allah, and many other denominations. Although we know that all these names are not but one. And you see here in the Book of Mediums, we have the Gospel and we have the Spirit's book. So let's see what each one of them speaks about. So in the Book of Mediums, in this aspect of Spiritism, says that investigates, experiments, confirms, systematizes, and conceptualizes laws, facts, forces, and phenomena of life, nature, thoughts, and human feelings. And the Gospel, according to Spiritism, from its scientific and philosophical conclusions, results the human recognition of the divine paternity and universal brotherhood of all beings of creation, thereby establishing the natural codes of love of God and our neighbor. And the third one, the Book of Spirits, considers, induces, and deduces logical ideas and facts about the root causes and its natural effects, generalizes and sums, reflects, deepens and explains, defines, reasons and consequences, hows and whys about the phenomena related to life and death. So Spiritism doesn't stay stuck in just one aspect of life. The Spirits told us that religion is in science, that is in philosophy. And when we study that, now the Spirits are telling us that everything is in everything. It's almost like we could say now the scientists are speaking about the quantum mechanics, isn't it? So that's exactly, I believe, the beginning of a new science that's gonna explain many things that we don't know yet. But the concept comes here much before the scientists started to talk about quantum mechanics. And Allan Kardec, not Allan Kardec, the teachings of the Spirits brought this to us, and saying that we are not to fight because we are just one. Religion, science, and philosophy. The three aspects of the Spiritist teachings. Only by being as it is could Spiritism achieve its great mission to transform Earth from a world of suffering, of tests and attunement, in a regenerated and peaceful orb on the way to the highest expressions of cosmic glory. Till that day, they were separating what is philosophy from what is science, from what is religion. And the Spirits came to us to say that everything is the same. Audio, Universo e Vida, a universe in life. The promised consoler. If you love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray to my Father, and he will send you another consoler to be with you forever, the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it cannot see it, and absolutely do not recognize it. Jesus. As he said, and very interesting to understand that, important also to understand, is that how things evolved, how things in nature, or the religious people could say, in the kingdom of God, everything progresses. And that happens to us too, because we were born as spirits to be perfect. That takes a little time, but we are, as people say, we are diamonds. We just have to be polished a little bit, or a lot, some people would say. And the idea here is saying that Jesus was saying that at that time he couldn't explain everything. He had many things in his mostly 3-4 years that he had to wander around. he didn't have time, nor people were prepared to understand all the complex situations that involve this moral, this religion, this science that Jesus were bringing at that time, more than 2,000 years ago. But he said, don't worry about it. I know that you guys have lots of questions, and I'm going to send, in the time that is the right one, I'm going to send the Spirit of Truth. They're going to help you. They're going to help you to understand these things that I told you, and they're going to help you to understand even more. They're going to tell you even more things that I cannot say to you right now because you're not prepared. The promised consoler. The evangelical Spiritism is a consoler promised by Jesus, who by the voice of the redeemed beings spread the divine light throughout the earth, restoring the truth and lifting the veil that covers the teachings in its feature of revived Christianity, so that men awaken to the great era of spiritual understanding with Christ. The promised consoler was brought here at the time that we needed, that to teach us that the same person that is a president or is a king right now or has immense power, a lot of money, could be a person that needs attention the next one. So that was the time to understand that we have to help each other, because there is no end. Our life has no end. And that's the idea that he brought here, that we have to understand right now that we are brothers and sisters, and through charity we're gonna change our world. You're not gonna be stuck in this body forever. And we have many different lives to be lived till we can progress to a new and better world. All right. So now, before so we can have a little break, we're gonna watch a movie that is Spiritism and Allan Kardec. That's it.
Let's tell the story of the Spiritist doctrine and of Allan Kardec. A Protestant family lived in a village in the state of New York called Hydesville. The father, John Fox, his wife Margaret, and his daughters, Margaret and Catherine, lived in the house too. Strange things started happening, noises and random knocks that scared the whole family. In March 31st of 1848, the noises grew louder and more intense, and the Fox sisters decided to do something about this mystery. They asked it to count to 4, and soon they heard 4 knocks. Through this communication, they discovered the noises were made by the spirit of a merchant who was murdered by the former resident of the same house. This is why March 31st of 1848 is considered the beginning of new spiritualism. In the same time period, strange phenomena started to happen around the world. It was called the turning tables, the tables that moved around, dancing and hovering in the air without any support. At first, the turning tables were used as entertainment in parties. In 1854, however, a scientist philosopher found out about the turning tables and took interest in them. Let's take a moment to learn about this scientist philosopher. He was born on October 3rd, 1804, and from a very young age, he dedicated himself to learning science and philosophy. He went to school in Switzerland at the Educational Institute directed by Pestalozzi, and in 1822 he came back to France where he started to write educational books. He wrote about mathematics, geometry, French grammar, chemistry, physics, astronomy, physiology, and many other subjects. In 1832, he got married to the professor Amélie Gabrielle Boudet. Do you remember the turning tables? It is here that she meets our scientist in 1854. And he learns about these events through a conversation with Mr. Fortier, his friend and colleague from the Society of Magnetism. In 1855, he agrees to attend for the first time to a paranormal session with the tables. Before he makes up his mind, he observes and he questions those events, but he ends up concluding that there certainly was an intelligence behind the turning tables, the spirits. From then on, he developed many ways to communicate with the dead, and from those ways was born the doctrine of the spirits through the working of many mediums. He adopted the name Allan Kardec and published many books like the Spirit's Book, the Medium's Book, the Gospel According to Spiritism, Genesis, Heaven and Hell, and also many studies that were published in the Spiritist Review. Allan Kardec discarnates in 1869, and he leaves behind to humanity the legacy of the third revelation promised by Jesus, the Spiritist doctrine.
Alright, another good video, isn't it? But now to wrap it up, let's talk a little bit more about these important figures that were the Fox sisters in this movement here, the modern spiritualist movement here, or modern spiritualism movement here in the United States. Historical antecedents. The Hydesville episode. In this modest home, strange facts happen. If alarmed its residents and the whole neighborhood, noise, bumps and knocks put all in unrest. No one could find its origin. Kate, which was 11 at the time, decided to challenge the mystery. It is thus established in the memorable March 31st, 1848, the spiritual telegraphy. And once more we're talking about these episodes. One curiosity, even before the Fox family moved there were other people that were in that house also. They moved because they couldn't take all the noises, and they were afraid of that. So they moved, and the family Fox, or the Fox family went there to that house. Nobody told them what happened there before. So now let's talk a little bit about the turning tables in Europe. That was happening here too. But now we're gonna focus a little bit more in Europe and the experience of Allan Kardec. The turning tables, to take men from the spiritual torpor in which they lived, in order to prepare to receive a revelation, was necessary indeed to happen a phenomena able to cause them fear, amazement, curiosity. Imagine what happened with the Fox sisters. They were sleeping in the middle of the night, and there was this knocks. Not just knocks, but the tables were moving, objects were flying, even the bed was moving too. So this was really, at that time, to call attention to this phenomena. And this is what's happening in these parties that they were having in Europe too. So now I'm going to speak about Allan Kardec. There was, as you could say, the codifier of Spiritism. He received all this message, or most of the messages of the spirits, to codify this new science, philosophy, and religion. Let's go and have some more information about him. So he was not born Allan Kardec. His name was Hippolyte. So you can say he was born in 1804, and he was born in Lyon, France. In 1832, he married the also professor Emily Boudet, and he became aware of the turning and speaking tables in 1854. So he was 50 years when he had the first contact with the world of the spirits. In 1856 was the first manifestation of the spirit of truth. Allan Kardec was a magnetizer at that time. And magnetism was used for 35 years. He used to study magnetism for more than 35 years when he got acquaintance with the speaking tables. He knew that the tables could be moved by magnetism. There's forces of nature that can do that. But when his friends started to talk to him and saying that tables are answering questions, he thought, uh-oh, there's something different there, because the energy that doesn't have intelligence, and this intelligence might come from another place or another origin. And he started to study that. And in 56, the Spirit of Truth came to him and said that he was one of the chosen ones, or not chosen ones, but the ones prepared to have this work, the work of congregating all this information about spirituality that at the time he decided to call Spiritism. A little bit more about Allan Kardec. In 1858, beginning of the publication of the Spiritist magazine. 59, published the book What is Spiritism? 61, publication of the Medium's book. 65, publication of the Gospel according to Spiritism. 65, publication of Heaven and Hell. In 68, publication of Genesis. In 69, he discarnated at 65 years of age by the rupture of an aneurysm. And this 15 years, not really 15 years, because he really started to be, serious about his mission when 2 years after he got acquaintance, when he received this message of the Spirit of Truth. In 69, unpublished texts written by Allan Kardec were published in the book entitled Posthumous Works. The basic books. Let's see. Genesis, Heaven and Hell, the Gospel according to Spiritism, the Book of Mediums, and the Book of the Spirits, or the Spirits book. Let's see a little bit more about Spiritism in Brazil. There was and still is the strongest movement of Spiritism in the world. The world of Ishmael. By the influx of Ishmael phalanxes in 1840, arrived two humanitarian doctors in Brazil. Both of them knew the mediumistic trances and the large scope of application of spiritual magnetism, and brought as motto, within their marvelous intuition, the same divine description of Ishmael flag, God, Christ, and charity. So these doctors, they brought to Brazil magnetism, because they were doctors, they were doing this charity, helping others in need, and also bringing this philosophy, not just the science of the as doctors, but also philosophy and religion. In 1865, Dr. Luiz Olímpio Teles de Menezes, with some colleagues, replied by the Diário da Bahia to an article something ironic written by a French scientist, unfavorable to Spiritism, published in the Gazette Médicale and transcribed in the newspaper. Brazilian publications have not gone unnoticed by Allan Kardec himself, who had knowledge of them with intimate satisfaction. So these doctors were defending the ideas of Spiritism because they were ideas that would help people. Ideas about hope, faith, relief, love, and science also. Science and good philosophy. Since 1885, also worked the Ishmael group with Saião and Bittencourt Sampaio, Evangelization Cell, whose divine light would touch our hearts. Bezerra de Menezes, since 1887, initiated a series of masterful works by the columns of The País, offering all the most beautiful and productive seeds of Christianity. So these two people were very, very important also to the work of Spiritism in Brazil. Very influential people that took Spiritism as a new philosophy, a new science to study, and even more a religion that can link them to the Creator, link them to perfection, link them to happiness. The Brazilian Spiritist Federation. The Brazilian Spiritist Federation, founded since the good year of 1884 by Elias da Silva, Manuel Fernandes Figueira, Pinheiro Guedes, and other companions of spiritual ideal in Rio de Janeiro, expected under Ishmael's protection the propitious time to perform its high task among all groups in the country, to congregate them, coordinating them with the activities within the healthier expressions of the Spiritist teachings. At that time, it was very important that this sparse, spread Spiritist centers had somebody or institution to give them some support. And these good souls, these important souls, were inspired by the High Spirits to found the Brazilian Spiritist Federation in 1884. And do you know these books? The Religion of the Spirits, Orto, and the Turning Tables in the Spiritism. These are some books that you can read. I recommend it to read, so you can have a little bit more knowledge, a deeper knowledge of the subject. And we finished off classes. Okay, great. So we spent another 2 hours, very good 2 hours together, enriching our knowledge about Spiritism. And next week, we're going to learn about the 3 aspects of our body. We're going to learn about perispirit, the spirit, and the physical body. And now we're going to finish as we started with a prayer. So let's all close our eyes, find a comfortable position in our chairs, make contact with God and Jesus Christ. Say how thankful we are, dear Creator, for being here amongst beings of this world and the spiritual world, learning, trying to be better, to help ourselves and everyone that surrounds us. Please help everyone to go to their homes safe, and that this week everyone get protected, so we can again next week have this meeting with you. God bless us all. So be it. Now let everyone please stand up and group hug. Thanks for the participation. Thank you.